Doctors, nurses who deliver babies, what are some strange or funny things people have screamed while giving birth? When my brother was born, they had to use forceps to get him out. My mom saw them and screamed, "Those are salad tongs! You are not putting any goddamn kitchenware in there!"
When I gave birth and they pulled out the forceps, I thought they looked like ice tongs, not salad tongs, much bigger. The doctor who controlled the pain meds saw my face and asked if I wanted to remember any of this. I said, nope. Last thing I remember. You are lucky. I had to have the forceps places twice when the first time didn't work. No epidural. I still shudder when I think about the feeling of the forceps scraping and stretching everything on insertion. Seriously made me consider stopping at one kid. Edit, spelling. My mother's labor was extremely short. I was born within an hour. So that means that she went from experiencing minimal pain to extreme pain with little time to adjust. When my dad was driving her to the hospital, he unfortunately had to stop for gas. He went in to pay, and just then, an elderly man in a wheelchair stopped him, asking him to buy cigarettes for him as the store was not wheelchair accessible. My mom then proceeded to lean out the window yelling, "Don't help the cripple." We have never let her forget that one.
I'm white, Irish ancestry, so I had red hair when I was a child, and my wife is black. Her sister was also in the delivery room. When the baby crowned, her sister told her she could see the baby's hair. My wife, who can barely breathe, blurted out, "The hair isn't red, is it?" Apparently, she was terrified the baby would be black with red hair. When my sister was in labor, she was screaming, and our mom was trying to be comforting. "It'll be okay, take some deep breaths. It'll be over soon." Then my sister looks up at our mom and says, "You have no idea what this is like."
When I was born, my dad didn't know that babies are usually born face down. And as I was coming out, he screams, "Oh my God, she doesn't have a face."
No one was responding to the call button, as my mom was giving birth, so she yelled, "Do something, honey!" So my dad ran out into the hallway and screamed at the top of his lungs, "It's showtime and I'm not a very good catcher." Apparently, when my aunt was giving birth, she was all jokes. Very angry jokes, but jokes nonetheless. Knock knock, who is there? The baby. Not yet.
After a long contraction, I said quietly, "I'm gonna set everyone in this room on fire." Everyone laughed, including the nurse. But I think my devoutly Christian mother-in-law started to cry. It's times like this that I wish I was a woman, so that I can scream wildly inappropriate and zany things during my pregnancy. Then I say that again and realize I just wished I could give birth, roughly aware of how painful it might be, all better.
I have a few funny stories. I am an OBGYN resident doctor. Lady was pushing for 2 hours and the head was finally crowning. She had like 1-2 pushes left to deliver the baby. Suddenly, "Never mind, I don't want to do this anymore." People aren't in their right mind truly, so rather than coddle them, it is honestly best to just sternly say, "No, you're getting this baby out now, okay? Now push." She delivered the next push. Had a complete druggie try to deliver her baby with her legs together. Normally that would make it hard to deliver anyhow, but for her the baby kept coming and just delivered behind her closed legs. One of us basically threw our body under her ass to keep her from sitting on her baby's head. While the baby is crowning, why? Why do I keep doing this to myself? As in, keep getting pregnant. Teenager delivering her baby, and the baby daddy is there, who is also a teen. Pooping is common in deliveries. I'd say 30 to 50% of the time. Anyhow, she starts pooping and gets really self-conscious and turns to her boyfriend yelling, "Don't look!" After the baby delivers, you still need to deliver the placenta. Usually not a big deal, but a lot of blood and fluid comes with it often. As she pushes it out, her husband's face goes white and he says, "Whoa," and has to sit down as he faints. Had an interracial couple, Mexican mother, black dad. She had broken up with him after getting pregnant. As she is pushing, without an epidural, she yells, "Goddamn, I hate that nasty." Not much you can do other than ignore it.
I'm a nurse, but I'm also a mom. My husband told me when I was breathing the laughing gas, I screamed, "I'm Lady Darth Vader," as I was pushing. Then one asked the doctor if he felt my tonsils when he had his arm up there. These are my coworkers. I hope they let you live it down.
My fiancé is a doctor and my mother's a nurse, so I'm claiming the titles by association for the purposes of this thread. My mother was unexpectedly having her 4th child and chose not to find out the sex. We like surprises everywhere, apparently. For some reason, she became convinced it was a boy and would have bet the house on it. In the delivery room, they hand the baby to my dad, and he joyfully tells my mom that they have a new baby girl. Mom, what? No! Check again. Dad, I'm pretty sure it's a girl, honey. Mom, You're not looking hard enough. As a nursing student, I was watching a planned C-section. The procedure was being preformed by the senior resident. Everything seemed to be going well when one heard the resident mutter, "Whoops," and one looked up and saw blood squirting out, pulsing. She fixed the artery very quickly, but it obviously freaked out Mom and Dad. Everything turned out okay for a mom and baby.
I was in labor for 22 hours. Pushes for 2.5. For those of you who don't know, an average first-time childbirth is around 12 hours with around 10 to 30 minutes of pushing. Needless to say, I was f***ing tired. About 2 hours into pushing, I couldn't push anymore. I said I can't. The doctor yelled at me and one lost it. "Shut your whore mouth." It got me mad enough, and around 5 pushes and 3 snips later, one popped out a 10 pounds baby. We found out post-delivery that one had literally ripped my uterus, which is why it took so long and hurt so bad. So much blood. Edit. I should clarify that I called my doctor a whore, not the other way around. I was married when I had my son. The delivery nurse for my son's birth was about 4'11". She kept talking to me and I couldn't see her over my belly and legs. It was really frustrating. She said, "Do you want me to pull down the mirror so you can see?" I was like, "I don't need the goddamn play-by-play, let's just do this." I apologized afterwards. She laughed. I don't remember this because I was very out of it, but I've seen the video. Hubby wanted to see how I was doing, and he pulled off my oxygen mask and asked how one felt. I started in with the litany against fear from Dune. I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death that brings total obliteration.
I GoPro'd my wife's C-section and pretty much ruined the first cries of my son by exclaiming, "That's a big-ass baby." I mean, he was 10 pounds. It just sucks because my family likes to rewatch the video, and it always starts out with quiet interrupted by my big mouth. Note, I luckily avoided the gory parts in the video. Just baby getting lifted from the incision.
I had a C-section and was pretty out of it. When they held up my daughter and said, "Here's your baby," I responded, "That's not mine. I've never seen it before in my life. Take it to Lost and Found." Well, there's some accuracy in that statement. While I was in labor, a very tense labor beset by multiple complications and attended by grim-faced medical personnel and my increasingly worried parents, there was a break between contractions. I was slumped, exhausted, trying to catch my breath and thinking seriously that I might not make it through. I very clearly remember watching my mother cry openly, tears streaming down her face. Then, from the next birthing suit came the usual calls for, "Push, push, one more time." A long, low moan, a baby's wails, people rushing about murmuring. Then this woman screams stridently, "What do you mean she's a boy? I am having a baby girl. They said I was having a girl. The pink and yellow, you must." It was like the sun broke through the clouds. My entire room broke into panicky giggles, which turned into genuine laughter. And everyone was shushing everyone else, doctors and nurses included. Schadenfreude to the rescue. Oh, just thought of another one. For one of my pregnancies, I ended up having an emergency C-section. I was drugged to the eyeballs, and one remember really liking one of the nurses because she smiled a lot and quoted poetic lyrics from my favorite songs. When the drugs wore off, one remembered I was the one quoting the lyrics. No wonder she was so smiley. Because of my glorious epidural, I'm also an anesthesiologist. I was able to rest and save my energy for the pushing stage of labor. My husband, not in the medical field whatsoever, refused to believe I was actually progressing in my labor because of how comfortable I appeared. He was under the impression that women must scream and thrash around and go through horrendous pain during childbirth, so one must not actually be having the baby. Please note, I love OB, and it is my favorite part of my practice, so I knew what my body was going to experience, thus choosing an epidural early on for pain control. My husband was so amazed by this and my calm demeanor that he was in some serious denial. When the nurses told me I was fully dilated and my OB came in to deliver our baby girl, my husband was asked to hold my leg. He grabbed my foot, looked down, and immediately turned white and sunk to the floor out cold. He ended up eating my ice chips and breathing my oxygen, while I held my own leg in the stirrup and pushed out our baby. They gave me something for pain before my actual epidural, and I kept telling my husband that I was and he said sweetly, "Please don't tell the nurses that." So when they came in and asked how I was feeling, I looked at my husband and said, "Oh crap, what was I supposed to say instead of?" But really I was up.
A young couple, mom and dad were both around 18, if one recall correctly. First baby for them both. Mom's pushing, and dad is doing this awkward jig wanting to be helpful but not really knowing how to be helpful. At one point I say, "Okay, we can see the head now." Still a while to go, and dad jumps up, runs to the counter, puts on rubber gloves, and gets into football receiving position, like 10 feet away from mom's legs. We all burst out laughing, and he was very embarrassed to learn that babies do not shoot out across the room to be caught like a football. Thank you for watching. Write comments, put likes, do not forget to watch our other videos.